Hello and welcome to the High Maintenance Hippie podcast. This is your host, Ashley from Ashley Taylor Wellness. On this podcast, we talk about all things beauty, health, wellness, and optimization. Being a high maintenance hippie represents not being boxed in, as I strongly believe that one size does not fit all. I'm a nurse turned coach, and I have learned so much about both conventional and alternative options, and I want to help you expand your options. I'm here to inspire you to learn new ways to improve your quality of life and to take your power back. I'm so excited that you're here, so let's get started. So I wanted to read something about Mirena because one of my best friends has breast cancer. And Mirena, this is from September 20th, 2022. This is from Forbes, but Mirena IUD, they have a lawsuit and it says a hormonal device that prevents pregnancies. So people have been suing for perforation, IIH, breast cancer, and other health risks.
Yeah, I mean, you're inserting a sharp little medical device into your uterus. It can permanently damage your uterus. There's been cases of this. And with the copper IUD, you can get pregnant. So you're still ovulating.
Okay.
And an important part about the copper IUD, to me, important morally to tell people is that you are ovulating. It's not preventing that. And the way the copper IUD works is by kind of inflaming the uterus and so that nothing can stick. So basically what happens is you do have sex and something is fertilized. That's a baby. And your body just, if it can't implant, it gets rid of it. And so we have to understand that like fertilization is still occurring. And if that's, in your beliefs that conception begins at fertilization, that's something so insane that women should be told. Like it's completely unethical to me to not mention that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just looked it up. So IIH stands for idiopathic, meaning no known cause. So idiopathic intracranial hypertension. So not good. But that is linked to Mirena as well as Yaz and Yasmin. And it's just very interesting because, I'm not anti-pharmaceutical. I think that they're overused. And I think that sometimes you take one, it leads to another issue, but there's definitely a time and a place. Bless that medicine.
I agree. I think when it's necessary, it's necessary.
Yeah. I don't want to have surgery without anesthesia.
If I have a life like altering infection and I'm going to die, I will take antibiotics.
Yes. So for IUDs, I wonder if any physical trauma could occur from having a copper object in there. I don't know how common that is, but that's something that I would be concerned about, just the placement and
copper toxicity. It's a heavy metal and data's coming out. A lot of people think copper IUD is the best, right? It's the best option because it's non-hormonal.
Right.
What we're finding is, like I said, the way that it works is by inflaming the uterus. What they're finding is that inflammation is not localized and then it spreads throughout the body. So it causes widespread inflammation. And actually the women that I've spoken to that have had the copper IUD have had some of the worst symptoms, some of the most painful, heavy periods, heavy cramping. And they were like, I thought I was making a better decision because it wasn't hormonal. But again, everything comes with risks.
Right. And you have to weigh the pros and the cons, but I certainly didn't get true informed consent when I was getting birth control. I was just told that that was the best thing. I mean, that was true for Accutane too. I'm like, should I change my diet? No, that's not going to do anything. Just take it. And then every single pill for the Accutane had like a baby with a misshapen head. So you knew that you couldn't get pregnant on this drug. And I'm like, no other options. Okay, got it. I mean, it worked.
If you're on Accutane, they force you to take birth control, I think. They prescribe both at the same time by default.
I think that I was at the time, and I had to do a pregnancy test every month too.
Yes.
So in addition to, let's say you have a hormonal imbalance, but you don't know when you're having your period because you have an IUD, for example, depending on what kind, then how could someone assess their hormones if they don't even know where they are in their cycle?
You really can't. If you're on hormonal IUD, there's no point in doing like something like a Dutch test. Or, because you're not producing your own hormones, really. If you're on hormonal birth control, it's shutting down the natural production of your hormones. It's introducing exogenous hormones. And I just tell them, like, if you feel like crap, it's going to show up on a test. Like so many women reach to testing first thing. And I'm like, there's so many things you can do first. Like, let's see if changing your diet helps. Of Of course, there's so many things you can do. If you're like, I'm on birth control, I'm not getting off. Okay, that's your choice. Totally. There are still things that you can still do. You're not a lost cause. It's not like everything's pointless. You can work harder to offset those nutrient deficiencies. You can work harder to manage your blood sugar. There's so many things that you can still do that I think a lot of women just discount because they think, oh, if I'm already on this, like, what's the point?
I'm so glad you mentioned that too, because that is so true. Some people say, well, you get Botox, so you can't be about healthy living. And I'm like, because I choose one thing that isn't the healthiest thing, just every other choice needs to be bad. And it's not like that. There is a lot more nuance. And if I'm going to be doing something that is, in my opinion, toxic on some level, then I need to make sure I'm supporting my body in other ways. So that's how I look at it versus, well, screw it. I did something that's not working for me. So what's the point in caring? I don't understand that mentality, but I think a lot of people have it.
100%. And I think when I see with my clients, when I have a couple clients, I take them here and there. If someone reaches out and it's like a good fit, like, yeah, we'll work together. It's about, if you're like this, if you're like, I feel at my bottom, I need to make a change. Oh, I'm doing too good. Sabotage back to your bottom. Let's just bring it here. Let's just bring it to the middle. We're never going to be perfect. But if we can kind of minimize these drastic changes and just be able to catch ourselves earlier, you go out to eat and maybe you eat an unhealthy meal, whatever that looks like for you, not throwing away everything, eating everything, coming home. I guess I'll have ice cream. I guess I'll do this. I guess I'll do that. You wake up in the morning. Last night was a bad night. I guess I'll go out this morning, hair the dog, go get brunch. Like if we can just reel it in a little bit and just make more like smarter decisions moment by moment, it makes such a difference instead of throwing away everything that we did for something momentary that probably doesn't matter.
Exactly. And it's just really about the sum of our decisions. So if you're living, just like we mentioned earlier, at home, I'm very, very careful about what I consume. A lot of different factors, nutrition, EMF, sleep is a non-negotiable. So I have a little bit more wiggle room when I'm traveling. But one example that I heard from a book, I don't know, I won't take credit for it, but I heard it. It's like, if you bang your leg on a table, then it's going to heal. It's going to inflame. You're going to get a bruise, which is your body saying, hey, protect this area. And it will eventually heal. But if you're banging your leg or your limb on the table, breakfast, lunch, and dinner 3 times a day, it's not going to get the opportunity to heal. So it isn't that you have to live like Bubble Girl or Bubble Boy.
Yes.
Unless you're in a season of cancer, extreme sickness, like there will be different seasons, but I'm back to more like 85-15 myself. And the things that aren't serving me, like if I drink alcohol, not too often, that's never really been my vice, but I'll come home and do a coffee enema and I'll take B and C vitamins and cysteine or NAC. Glutathione I love. Charcoal. So what are healthier ways to do these things? And I think that's really the middle ground, because you're going to lose a lot of people if you say, don't do any of these things, instead of let's just talk about the pros and the cons. And if there are ways to avoid taking this that make you feel like that's the right choice for you, great. If not, at least how can I support my body? And 100%. That is just amazing.
Yeah. It's not like, how can we never do this again? How can we do this every once in a while and support our bodies? Like at the end of the month, we're going to Vegas for 6 days. And when I tell people that we go to Vegas, it's for a business trip. We have some fun. People are like, how do you do it? I mean, I don't go crazy. Like we don't go out to clubs or whatever, but I go out to eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner, 3 meals a day for 6 days. And I get home usually at the end of these trips and I'm fine. But I also will leave the group at 10:30 and have fun, guys. Like I'm going to bed. And so I think another part of it is having strong boundaries, which can feel really hard, and I'm not afraid to be the weird girl that like doesn't drink or drink sparkling water or like all of these things, brings all of her own stuff in her suitcase, supplements and protein powder to add to my coffee. Sometimes when I'm traveling, I make hotel coffee. And I drink it on an empty stomach. But if I bring these things, if I bring my own coconut milk for fats, and if I add some protein powder, and if I do this and I bring beef sticks and I have a little snack, like that makes all the difference. Just takes a little bit of forethought and it's fine. Like we can still live our lives. And I think that's where, when I first started getting healthy, I saw these people going to the extreme. And I was like, I can't live my life like that. Like how it's not sustainable. And so you learn the things that your body needs.
Yes, definitely. And bioindividuality. And some people can handle stressors that others can't. Like Sky Gallagher, she is a good friend of mine, business coach, and we have hosted retreats together. She is a powerhouse. I don't know how she does it, but like I'm a monster if I don't get enough sleep, especially multiple nights. That doesn't seem to be her biggest weakness. You know, we're all different, and it's about learning our bodies versus this is good, this is bad, in my opinion.
Or this is good for them, so maybe it's good for me.
Right.
It's like, try it on for size.
Exactly.
Maybe not.
Okay. So one thing that I never learned about until I'd say the last 5 years regarding birth control would be, and you might have alluded to this a little bit, but if you stop taking birth control, why and how is it possible that you might not be attracted to your partner anymore?
This is so crazy. So birth control, the exact mechanism, I can't exactly describe. I can send you links if you want to put them in the show notes. I have articles, kind of one of two ways. So there's two different data points that they've found. One is it changes the kind of man that you're attracted to. And what they found, they ran the study where they showed women like two different pictures. Same man, I mean, fake man, right? AI generated, I'm sure.
Yeah.
One was masculine features and one was slightly more feminine. And they showed these pictures to women on birth control, hormonal birth control, and not on birth control. What they found is the women on birth control chose more feminine looking men. So like if we're thinking like Harry Styles versus like Jason Momoa situation, like you're leaning towards a more feminine man.
Yeah.
And the other way that it works, they did something called the sweaty t-shirt test. What they did is they had men wear these like get sweaty in this t-shirt. So it had their sweat, hormones, pheromones, all that good stuff. And they had women, again, on hormonal birth control and not smell them and rate like if they were attracted to it, right? Like how it smelled to them. And what they found was that women on birth control chose men or like the t-shirts of men who had more genetic similarities to them. And what we know about genetics is for finding a mate, you want someone with the most opposite genes as you. It makes the most resilient offspring. And so, yeah, what they found is that women would, and I've had women message me saying, I was engaged and I got off birth control and I broke off my engagement. I couldn't stand the way that he smelled. So there is something, isn't that insane? So those are kind of like the two mechanisms that are at play. I just think it's so crazy when I get those messages that like, I broke up with my boyfriend when I got off birth control. I'm like, oh my, good for you, girl. Like, dang. I mean, so many women don't get off birth control until they get married and they're ready to have kids.
Yeah. And
then they have this realization of, I don't think this is my person. I'm not attracted to them anymore. And so I want to send love to anyone if you've experienced that, because I can imagine that would be really scary to go through.
Yeah. It's just so interesting how much our hormones affect everything. And then one other thing I wanted to mention, you briefly touched on this, progestin versus progesterone. So I believe it's Mirena that gives you some progestin. Is that the birth control?
A lot of them. Yeah. There's like
a lot of them.
The main birth control, which has like fake estrogen and then fake progestin. I think it's estradiol. But most women are on like the mini pill, which is progestin only. Same thing with the IUDs. It's a constant stream of progestin, which is what gives you. So progestin, a lot of women are like, well, birth control creates like the idea that you're already pregnant, but it's more like a post-menopausal thing. But yeah, so it's the fake progestin.
Wow. Yeah, it's so interesting.
It's crazy.
It kind of reminds me of Synthroid, which is a synthetic version of a thyroid hormone T4. And a lot of people who have low T4, high TSH, Synthroid is prescribed for them. And on paper, it brings up the T4. However, in the body, it needs to convert from T4 to T3 in the liver. And if people can't do that, their blood work might look better, but they don't feel better. So I'm not against, and I know this was like a whole controversial thing, the PUFAs, not FUPAs, PUFAs, polyunsaturated fatty acids, vitamin D. That was a big one. You know, a lot of people have issues with people taking that because it could throw everything off. I'm kind of on the fence. I do supplement with vitamin D3 and K2, but I think the best way to get it is naturally and then fill in the gaps there.
Yeah.
But
That's another question I get asked too is like, what about the winter? And it's like, well, if you get vitamin D is fat soluble.
right.
And if you get enough in the summer, there's so many ways. D Minder is a great app.
Yes.
I love it. And get blood work done, before you supplement with something, like get some blood work done.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it'll be stored in your cells and it'll carry you through. Our bodies know, again, like they know what to do. When we don't have as much vitamin D, our bodies store it. We're good until the spring and summer when we can get it again. So yeah, it's crazy.
Well, I mean, there's so many things that I could ask you about, but okay. So as far as living in harmony or living in sync with your menstrual cycle, are you a fan of this? And we briefly discussed the 4 different phases, and you mentioned ovulation. I mean, that's when I'm planning my photo shoots and all of that. But what would you say? Is it more workouts and activity, food, a little of both, or what does that mean to you? And where did this come from, if you know?
So the founder of cycle syncing would be like the official term coined by Alisa Viti, who wrote the book Woman Code, and fabulous book. I mean, mind blowing. If this is all new information to you, I share a lot on my Instagram, but if you're like a reader, you want a book to dive into, Woman Code is incredible.
Okay.
I would say it can feel very overwhelming at first. And there's like a chart of foods to eat during each phase to support these fluctuating hormones. And it can feel overwhelming. And so I like to just dial it back. It's a combination of lifestyle, diet, nutrition, workouts. And I think thinking about the seasons is an easier way too of like, okay, if I'm on my period, I'm in my winter. What would I eat during my winter? How would I feel? What would that look like? And obviously you're going to work out in the winter on your period. Listen to your body. Bottom line, listen to your body always. First day of your period, take it easy. Go on a walk though. I'm not saying don't move because exercise has been shown to really help like period cramps and period pain and all of that if you struggle with that really bad. But then when you move into like your follicular, which would be your spring, healthy fats to support ovulation. So adding more eggs, avocado. We also want to support our gut health because our gut flora changes a little bit. So maybe some sauerkraut during this time. And then that's when you could ramp up your workouts a little bit. Now, ovulation again, summer, go crazy, go out. This is a time for HIIT. This is a time where your body's going to crave more like light, raw, fresh foods, summer foods, right? Seafood, light. And then your luteal, I just think about again, fall. What would you eat in the fall? Nourishing with stews, hearty foods, up your carbs. So, and red meat, especially. I mean, I eat it all month long, but during my luteal phase, you're about to lose blood. So how can you replenish your iron stores before you lose them? So just little things here and there. With exercise, this is where, yes, I kind of sync my workouts with my cycle, but I lift weights all month long. I really do. I just will ramp it up or dial it back and do like more low impact. So that's where I kind of differ with going full force of like on my period, I do nothing. In my follicular, I do like kickboxing and cycling. And then ovulation is HIIT and berries and Orange Theory and luteal. That's really hard to keep up with, especially if you're someone who enjoys weightlifting and like you really want to build muscle and see results. You're not going to do that if you're only working out one phase of your cycle. So it's just about, again, working with these fluctuations, going harder when you have the energy, listening to your body. If you're ovulating, you're like, yeah, I'm going to do some HIIT. I'm going to do some sprints. Definitely not the thing to do the day before your period. Maybe some Pilates, low impact stretching, what feels good. But that's probably where I kind of like don't follow the super cycle syncing stuff. I do enjoy working out and I am at a place where my cycle is very regular. My hormones are in a great spot and I have the energy to lift weights all month long. But little anecdote, I will tell you, I did 75 hard. Just for fun, for like a mental kick in the butt mostly. And if you've never heard of 75 hard, it's like this mental toughness challenge, really. It's 2 workouts a day, one inside, one outside. Can be whatever you want. drinking water. I did not drink a gallon, taking progress pictures, reading 10 pages of like nonfiction, all of that. I did it for 3 weeks. My period came 3 days early. It was painful. It wasn't great. So just a little reminder that don't push it. A man could probably do that. A man could probably do that. I did it. My period came 3 days early. It was a lot of stress on my body.
Yes.
So that's just a little anecdote.
Yeah, more is not better. Wow. And we want to get massive results. And I remember before I got really sick, I worked with a coach and she had me eating very few calories, doing an hour of cardio a day, regardless if I had to go to the hospital for 14 hours a day. I'd have to get up at 4:30, do the workout. This whole thing, I actually blew up. And I don't think it was fat. I think it was more like inflammation. And my body was like, what are you doing? I'm hanging on by a thread. So listen to your body and notice how you're feeling after a workout. And I like to feel more energized. Usually I do. If I feel more depleted after the workout, then I probably overdid it. And I just need to then check, okay, did I do this on an empty stomach and I needed some fuel? Am I just exhausted? Is it because of where I'm in my cycle? And I think those are important questions to ask, and we'll fine tune with ourselves if we are aware and noticing these patterns and trends within ourselves.
100%. Same with food. After you eat, how do you feel? You should feel energized after you eat. You shouldn't feel tired or sluggish or like worse than you felt before you started eating. Yes. And I think a lot of people are just used to feeling like that like after they eat. Once you sigh, just that's you're done. Don't push it. And I think, so many people are just used to a baseline that is so far below what they could be feeling.
Yes. And people don't know how good they could feel. And once I got healed on a physical and emotional level, and I think the work will always be there, but unrecognizable from 5 or 10 years ago, I didn't know how good I could feel. And so once you clean up it, and some people struggle with this, wait, I'm living a cleaner lifestyle. So I used to be able to drink 6 drinks and I wouldn't feel like crap. Now I have 2 and I do. Well, the body's giving you the message sooner. So I think of that as the body being more sensitive.
That's a good thing.
Exactly. I do too. Not everyone. Yeah. Maybe if you want to continue those vices, you're like, but it was way better when I had 6, but it's just because the body was used to it.
Like, it's cheaper. You're going to save some money. I feel the same way. And so many people are like, how do you do it? Like, you have so much self-control or this and that. I'm like, no, I just know what it feels like to feel very sick. And I know what it feels like to feel very good. And I know what gets me in each direction. Yeah. And I just like choose the path of feeling better and feeling vibrant and healthy.
Yes. All right. So I have a couple more questions. I literally could talk to you forever about all these things. Do you use natural cycles with the Oura Ring app?
Yes, it's extremely accurate. Okay. I tracked I hand charted my cycle, and I used a BBT thermometer for 4 years before I got the Oura Ring. Okay. And a cool thing about the Oura Ring is it actually takes the average of your temperature over the course of the night. So if you're someone who's looking to chart their cycle and you don't have an Oura Ring and you're going to take your temperature orally, just everyone asks me that. How do you take your temperature orally, guys? Don't worry. You're supposed to take it first thing when you wake up and at the same time every day. And if you like to sleep in on the weekends, it makes it hard. Like, I was setting an alarm, waking up at 6:30 on the weekends and going back to sleep. And it's a big deterrent for a lot of people. Yes. And so an Oura Ring will take the average temperature. It is the same as my BBT temps. It's super accurate. And then it'll sync itself to natural cycles. You kind of have to do it. You don't put in your temperature manually, but you just hit the sync with Oura. It'll bring it up and then it'll chart it. And Oura has been cleared by the FDA as like a legit form of contraceptive. It has an extremely intelligent algorithm. I mean, obviously at the end of the day, don't let a robot tell you and that's why I think it's so important to first hand chart and to understand the way it works. And not just to blindly get an Oura Ring, sync it with natural cycles, and think that it's just going to give you all the answers. It's important to know both, but it's incredible. I mean, it is so accurate. I love it.
So what would you say about trends that you've noticed with temperature in different parts of the cycle? Is there any pattern?
Yeah. So that's kind of the way that you'll learn your fertile window. If you're hand charting, or you'll just see it on the graph in natural cycles. So what you'll notice is the way that the temperatures change over the course of the month. You'll see it on the graph in natural cycles, which is another really cool thing, is you can put in your own data points. You can add the way that your mood, your cramps, your different kinds of symptoms. So you can also see the way that these things actually correlate over the course of the month, instead of blindly going, I have a headache today, and then I had a headache last night or last month at the same time. And you'll realize that it's probably hormonal. And so what happens is right before you ovulate, your temperature will dip and then spike and then stay elevated until you get your period. And when I say spike, we're talking half a degree, which is why it's so important to get a BBT thermometer, different kind of thermometer. It's not just your classic, like, do I have a fever thermometer? You'll find it in the family planning section, like where the condoms are. It goes to 2 decimal points. So it's more accurate. And so it'll dip and then spike and then stay elevated until you get your period. And month after month, you can chart this trend and figure out your fertile window based on that data. And it is extremely reliable. It's the same, like I've been ovulating on day 15 every day or every month for 5 years. And so it's just really cool to see the way things change and the way that our bodies, again, go through these cycles month after month.
Okay, so this is very interesting. I have my Oura, and then it says, so it spikes right there. That was on cycle day 9, which is interesting. It does say that I'm in the follicular phase there, but it's been lower ever since. And then it went up today, and it says my period starts in 9 days. So does that make sense that maybe—
What day are you on today?
Today would be cycle day 20.
So that's probably ovulation. It's possible on day 9, you were a little bit stressed, a little bit inflamed. Maybe you had a drink. Maybe you didn't sleep well.
I know what it was.
Oh,
I think I got my lip filler dissolved.
Yep.
And I remember I had like a little bit of a temp from that. So I think that might be what it is. So the temperature is going to increase until I have my cycle, and then it'll dip back down again.
Yeah. And so that's kind of another cool way to know when your period is going to come. Like if I check in the morning and it's lower, I'm like, oh, it's coming sometime today. Cool. So it's just so cool that you can plan for these things also. And I mean, if it's regular all the time, plan vacations around it. I know women that have planned their weddings around it. And then sometimes wedding stress makes it come early and, all of that. But our bodies have their own MO.
Yes. Okay. Well, once again, so many things I could ask you about, but what would you say the top things that help our hormones? We talked about things that are not so helpful. I would say sleep deprivation, eating a diet that does not have enough protein, and or I'm on a blood sugar roller coaster, not managing my stress. I need to get sunlight. So that's things that I would do. Morning sun, so helpful for hormones. Not jumping on my phone first thing in the morning, being in tune with my cycle. So what else would you add as far as things that really serve people that they may not be giving enough credit to, and things that are hurting us that we may not be giving enough credit to?
I would say, and this is from personal experience, one of the things that's not serving you is scrolling on your phone at night.
Yeah.
Not only is it the blue light, but I know you've had it before, the CGM, continuous blood glucose monitor.
Yeah,
it has, oh, there you go.
Yeah.
One time I can remember, and I ate dinner kind of early that night, maybe at 5 p.m. And at 9 p.m., I got in bed. I was scrolling on my phone, Instagram, TikTok, whatever. I synced my CGM before I went to bed at like 10:30. My blood sugar had spiked because my cortisol had spiked from scrolling. So and I didn't realize, I didn't feel stressed, but we have to understand that even if we don't quote unquote feel stressed, it does not mean that our body's not under stress.
Yes.
And I have so many women that are like, I'm not stressed. And they explain their lifestyle to me. And I'm like, yeah, yes, you are. Just because you're not, they've been operating at such a high level for so long, they don't see it as stress. It's their baseline. So I would say getting rid of the late night scrolling is huge, and it's easy to do. It's free. It's literally free. Just turn your phone off. It's hard, but it's free. I would say, definitely the protein, but also fats. I mean, cholesterol rich foods, eggs, butter, dairy. Cholesterol it gets such a bad rap, but it's so integral. We cannot make hormones without it, especially progesterone, which is the most important. And if we're stressed, cortisol will eat progesterone first. We have this thing called it's called the pregnenolone steal, which pregnenolone's like the stem cells of hormones. It's what all the hormones get made from. And when we're stressed, cortisol eats it all. And so you can't make other hormones. I would just say stress is it's the most nebulous one, but it's the most important one to manage in every way that you can. Another thing that you can do, so we talked about protein, remineralizing your water. I would say that's super, super important. Like I mentioned, minerals are the spark plug of like our metabolism of everything. So important. And again, super easy. You're drinking water anyway, add a little salt, add some trace minerals, and then eating breakfast within an hour of waking up. That's going to be my last one. And breakfast before or with coffee. But at least have a few bites of your food first. If you're someone that's like, I am not hungry when I wake up, I'm not hungry till noon, not a good sign.
Red flag.
People wear it like a badge of honor. Like, I'm not even hungry. You should be hungry. You should be hungry. Again, skipping breakfast is one of the things that can slow our metabolism and cause us to not feel hungry. So it's kind of this like domino effect. So I would say eating, again, a protein-rich breakfast within an hour of waking up, and then having your coffee. If there's one thing you're going to do, please do that.
Yes. That's actually a big one. I did not have an appetite in the mornings for the longest time, and I do now. And I wake up and my body is like, feed me. But I did a lot to manage my stress. And something you mentioned too is a lot of people don't know that they're stressed because that is our emotional home. That's all that we know. My boyfriend, it's a great example of that. He loves living in chaos. And actually, when things are too chill, he doesn't intentionally create chaos. It's something he's working on, but it's what feels familiar. What is familiar may not actually be what's best for us, but it's just something to think about. So I wanted to ask you, did you see this new update from Oura? It's not live yet for me, but it's going to tell us.
I'm kind of scared, but I'm excited.
I am so excited because one thing when I work with clients, we look at restorative time. So the categories are going to be restored, relaxed, engaged, or stressed. And if you're hanging out in the stressed category, the majority of the time, it's going to have you do more restorative time. And it's so amazing for women who think that they need to be doing more to heal when in fact it's less, but the guilt and the beliefs get in the way. So now there's hard data that will support that. So I can't wait. Did it actually show up on your phone or you just got the email?
I got the email.
Okay.
So I haven't gotten the feature yet. I'm really excited. I just think if there's one thing you're going to invest in, like before a red light, before anything like that, like an Oura ring, I think I have the older gen. It's like, it was like $300 and this thing could change your life. It can make you so aware of things that you weren't aware of, or maybe were in denial of, but it is so good for like behavior modulation.
Absolutely. And then you get that daily feedback about what's working for you, because you can do a test and then you don't know if that's working for you until about 3 months later. But if you can see, wow, when I don't have a big meal before bed, my resting heart rate isn't as high, I sleep through the night, you start to make your own connections. And I find it to be the best tool. If I could recommend one thing, that's where I tell people to start. And similar to you, in my coaching program, I don't do any testing to start because I'm like, let's do everything. We know it's going to be off if you're not sleeping, if you're not nourishing yourself, if you're super stressed out.
Yeah.
Let's do the foundation and then do the test to fill in the gaps.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Okay. So in wrapping up, tell people, well, one, how can people work with you and where can they find you online?
Yeah. So I do take one-on-one clients. Like I said, I stopped for a while, but it's so rewarding for me that I love that aspect. So I do take clients sometimes. So you can reach out, you can DM me. We'll see if it's a good fit. But I have an online course, it's included in my coaching. It's where we start and it's called the Balance Bay Blueprint, and it works on those foundations that we're talking about. So there's modules on nutrition, sleep, stress, routine, cycle tracking, supplements. There's recipe ebooks. There's meal matrices. There's basically everything that I did to heal. There's gut health modules. Like it's in there. It's in there. When you enroll, you have lifetime access. So I plan on adding like a nervous system one. I'm going to add a detox one and talk about liver health, which is something I wasn't super like into when I created it, but now I am. And so I think it's so cool that as I learn more, I just keep adding modules to this course. So it's something that you can reference for the rest of your life, essentially. So that's called the Balance Bay Blueprint. That's my online course. I'm on Instagram at LittleRaeOfHealth. I'm on TikTok, but I'm not on there as often. There's probably a lot of old videos. I have YouTube linked on my Instagram profile, and then I have a podcast. So the Little Ray of Health podcast. And it's been so much fun to do that because Instagram, as you know, doesn't give us the space to have these long form content, these long conversations about more nuanced topics. You can't answer all of this on an Instagram story. So that is where I hang out. I'm always on Instagram. So come say hi.
Yes. And I will include links to your Instagram and the course and all of that. So it makes it easy for people. But what I love the most is that you are living proof. You're teaching what you learned along the way. And I am not against the hospital. I'm not against medical professionals. I am one. But when it comes to lifestyle and healthy living, that is not what we are teaching in the hospital. That is for emergencies and crisis situations. So the work that you're doing is really helping people understand their body, what's within their control. It doesn't even sound like, the focus is on testing or anything like that. It's more so let's get back to the basics.
Yeah, it's really not clinical.
Yes.
Like it really is just like teaching you how to use food and lifestyle changes as medicine to balance your hormones for life, to focus on true metabolic health, like from the inside out.
And you are a walking billboard for yourself because you've been able to heal that. And I feel the same about myself. It's one thing to read about it in a book. It's another thing to go through it and have that experience. And then how amazing is it to be able to share that with other people? It makes some of the challenges that I've been through and maybe that you've been through a lot more tolerable, knowing, hey, I learned something that could help other people.
I always say that. I say like it was like going through hell. And I didn't, at times, like I didn't have hope. Like I didn't think I would make it. I didn't have someone like me cheering me on. And so now I'm like, I want to be the person that I wish I had. I want to provide the information, and I would go through it all over again in a minute if it got me here again. This is truly, no, you can relate. It's like a dream job. It's the most rewarding thing ever.
And a lot of people don't even know that it's possible. So thank you for being an example of that too. All right. So in wrapping up, any major takeaway, if there's one thing you really want people to know, could be more than one thing, but what do you think people need to know that they might not know or be missing?
Oh gosh, that is so hard just to choose one. I think
more than one, just anything that comes to mind. Like what's really important that we're underestimating?
I mean, our food. It's what I think it all like boils down to. We eat 3 times a day, hopefully 3 meals a day. And if we can just change that or change the food we're buying or switch up the macronutrients or the order we're eating, there's so many little changes we can make that make such a massive difference in every aspect of our life. And so I truly think that like food can be a form of medicine and a form of healing, and we are in control. And I think that so many things around us want to take our power away, and we need to take it back. I think there's nothing better than, and sometimes it's scary because it's like, if it's in my control, it's on me. And that's a thing that you got to take back. But I wish I knew this sooner. I wish I knew how my body truly worked and how miraculous it is and how capable it is of healing. So I just think that once we understand these things, once we know better, we do better. Absolutely. And I think that's what I would say.
Yeah. I mean, once again, I thank you so much for being an example, also for being someone who's relatable. I love your personality and that you don't preach perfection. And you're like, I get my nails done. I had some French fries. And thank you, because I'm not really swayed by that. But I know online people are like, what's the point of even starting? Because I'll never be perfect. Yeah. It's not real. It's not real. I don't live a perfect lifestyle. It doesn't sound like you do either. And once again, maybe if you're in a season where that's appropriate, but we put so much pressure on ourselves. And does this lifestyle feel like work, or do you feel like you can actually enjoy yourself now? Like you've found what works for you and you're in a good rhythm?
Oh yeah. At this point, this is my life. Like this is it. It's so easy and I enjoy it. Right. Like I love it. I love grocery shopping and I love finding like new healthy snacks. And it's just like this whole thing, and I'm with a partner who supports it and loves it too. And I want to encourage anyone whose partner maybe isn't on board. If you're on board with everything we're saying and they're not, give him a chance, because he wasn't always this way. I did not find him this way. I think so also being a beacon and realizing you have the power to also change the people around you by example.
Yes. I mean, I could talk to you about so much. We will see. But yeah, thank you again. And so much amazing knowledge that you shared. And I think you're such a great person. So definitely check out Emily if you haven't already. And I appreciate you tuning in today.
This was so much fun. Thank you.
Thank you. One of my new favorite finds ever is the plasma mask from Iuna. I get it at Citrine, and I use this brush to apply it. It is amazing for drainage and tightening, and it helps to move the lymph around in the face. So if you're someone who gets puffy, it is a go-to. And I use it before recording podcasts, before going to events. If I am recording during the menstrual phase of my cycle, I might be a little puffier. I had a lot of sugar the night before or a glass of wine or two. This is amazing. I absolutely love it, but I wanted to share about it. I absolutely love it, and it is one of my favorite new finds. You can use code Ashley Taylor Wellness to save 10% on your orders at Citrine, with the exception of Kypris Beauty, Vintner's Daughter, and Therabody. Thank you for listening to the High Maintenance Hippie podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the podcast, rate it, and leave a review, ideally a 5-star review if you loved it. All of this is free of charge and really helps me to be able to run the podcast. If you take a screenshot and tag me, I'll repost you and shout you out on Instagram. So tag Ashley Taylor Wellness and High Maintenance Hippie podcast. If you have any feedback or guests that you'd like to have, I would love to hear from you so that I'm not just talking at you. I really want to deliver things that are valuable. So send me an email with any feedback, suggestions, or ideas for guests at ashley@ashleytaylorwellness.com. And I will leave you with a disclaimer. Please know that this is not medical advice or replacement for seeking medical care. Everything discussed on this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only. Always consult with your medical provider before making any changes. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.